second panel will begin. The fact that the fact that we have two panels this morning speaks to the wealth of expertise, skills, and knowledge that is resident in our community. And Adrian and Jean wanted to be sure that we profiled as many of these experts as we possibly could in order to share what they have to offer with as wide an audience as possible. So that is a way of getting to the point that this is being streamed live, and it is also going to be carried on WLIB, I think it is. Is that right, Jean? So our audience is much larger than the group of you seated in this room. This is an important undertaking. It's important for Positive Community Magazine, but it's also important for communities that are served by Positive Community Magazine. Now, to get our second panel discussion underway, Adrian and Jean invited Deborah Collins to be a lead speaker. She will chat for a few minutes, as did Al Copy and Dr. Coleman in the preceding the first panel. I'm not going to read her bio. There's a short bio in the bulletin, but I will introduce her as the Executive Director of the Essex County Economic Development Corporation. Deborah?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm so delighted to be here. A lot of what was said this morning resonates with me on many different levels, certainly from my 10 years on Wall Street, last with Goldman Sachs. The things that I have learned in the county of Essex, Goldman Sachs could never teach me. They are things about the how to make sure that you are increasing capacity and growing your business. We need to hear about that. We've heard the issues this morning. We're all familiar with them. But let's talk about how we can move the dollars away from government contracting back into the private sector if that's where they need to be. And I can tell you, Mr. Henningberg, you said the things this morning that I cannot because I work in local government. At least I can't say them in a public forum. I say them every day one-on-one, and many of you who have sat down with me have heard me say them. I've talked about being ready, willing, and able to deliver, not just have a good product. So how do you get to deliver? I was speaking to a gentleman at my table this morning and saying to him, we have been running a bonding readiness program for 2 years. How many in this room have heard of it? Now that's a crying shame. 2 years. 2 years we have had the Surety and Fidelity Association of America send us a bond producer to sit down with our contractors one-on-one to help them become bondable or increase their bonding limits. Up to $2 million. 20% of the individuals who have gone through that program have become bondable. One of them emailed me last week and said, I have 2 contracts in the private sector, send me laborers. I did so. Why isn't this information reaching the people who need to know about it? And we suffer from the same problems. My office has been in existence for 5 years. We are like a startup. We suffer with the problem of marketability. How do we get the word out to you? And I can tell you, it's not business cards, it's not flyers, it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. If you're not on these sites and you know whereof I speak, you're not going to market to your constituents. You're not going to market to your target population. So how do we help you do this? Well, on October 13th, we're hosting our 4th annual Destination Essex at the Grove. The keynote speaker will be a brother from South Orange, Craig McKay, who is the global head of private finance at Oppenheimer and Company. He will be there. You need to be there too. So he can talk to you about access to capital, talk to you about angel investing. Can you hear me? Okay, great. October 13th, there's a packet of materials that will be in that gift bag that you received. There's information in there. In that material, you will hear about our Biz Center, the Essex County Resource Center and Reference Library. How many of you know that we have one? Crying shame, it's a crying shame, because it is the only business center with a collection of 500 titles specifically on the topic of entrepreneurship, the only one of its kind in the state of New Jersey, free meeting space for home-based businesses, 3 computer terminals, a program called Resource Mate, which allows you to search our collection from home 24/7, come in and pick up the book on angel investing. It's critical that you know about it. Critical that you know about the bonding program that is going on this session. This 8th session will terminate on November 3rd. But before that happens, we want to make sure that you get out the word to as many people as possible that we are there. The doors of Essex County are open. And let me say a bit about that, because that's critical to me. A couple of weeks ago, one of the engineers said to me, Deborah, we're looking for a short list of businesses in the area of masonry. Fine, I have a database of 800 businesses in Essex and Hudson County. And if you don't know this, know please that we are regulated by New Jersey local public contracting laws, which state that we must, for every opportunity under 17,500, go out and secure quotes. I got 3 quotes. I'm not going to mention from whom, obviously. And I said to one of the gentlemen, do you have a business registration certificate? Raise your hand and here's when you're in business. Okay, you need one in order to do business in the public sector for anything over $3,500. I won't be long, but this is critical. You have to have this document. How do you get it? You log on to our purchasing portal. On that home page, you scroll down, we take you to the Department of Treasury. You can do it online. He didn't have one. He didn't get the opportunity. One of the graduates of our bonding program, bonded up to $350,000, had an opportunity to work on a county project. He turned it down. Why? He was terrified that he couldn't meet Joe D's expectations. What is that about? So we're afraid. We're afraid of success on many levels. I haven't heard anybody say that today, but we are. We are afraid of success, and we need to get over it. Get over it. If you haven't already read it, please read Eugene Robinson's The Disintegration of the Splintering of Black America. Disintegration, the Splintering of Black America, where he talks about 4 classes. There isn't one Black America now. There are transcendent. The Oprah Winfreys, the emergents, the Africans, by the way, who are getting into the Harvards and Yale, at 50% higher rates than the Asians. They're the new minority that's succeeding, let me tell you, so if you didn't know already. And he talks about the disadvantaged, those who we used to call, in my day, the lumpen proletariat. How do we help these populations? So what I need to say to you today is that the doors of Essex County are open indeed for business. If you've been reading the papers, you know that we're about to receive $250 billion over the next 5 years. Where's that money going to go? You need to get a part of it. How? You've got to be ready, willing, and able to deliver. And I hope that you'll contact me after today. Today is good. It's important. And I didn't want to get up today, I have to tell you that. But today is important. It's good to talk about these issues. But what are the next steps? Let's hope that the next panelist can tell us so. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Deborah. It's good to know that you're in Essex County working in this area. All right, we're going to invite our second panel to the front of the room, and it's going to be led by Gloria Bryant, who is the founder of the Writing Company. Next to her, a couple of sentences about her or his business enterprise or his professional engagement. And we're going to start with Gloria. Let her have the mic, please.
Well, I guess I'm happy to say that the Writing Company, which is a public relations and marketing company, has been in Newark for 25 years, going on 26 years. We started as a very small little one-man show, developed into a little larger group, and I guess history, like Gus and I talked about. When you're around long enough, you have to have something, right? And history's one of them. Fame was not one, money was not one, but we stuck it out, rode the waves, and still here. We market, we brand, we do website design, we do everything that comes across the communications area. We are, I must say, up to state of the art in all of the social media. I don't do it personally, but I have staff that does. So we're here to help, we're here to market, we're here to brand and give you as much help as we can in this community.
Thank you. William?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is William Parrish, Bill Parrish, I'm president and CEO of Noble Strategy. We're a construction management firm. For those of you who don't know, construction management is, we like to say, the science of integration. We are the integrator, the bridge, if you will, between, on your large commercial construction projects, contractor, owner, in some cases architect, and community, which is a very, very big piece of any major project. We focus on program and project management, construction services such as estimating, scheduling, safety analysis on a project from a professional services standpoint. But we also spend a great deal of time on sustainable design and construction practices. If you're familiar with this green economy, it is not missing the construction industry. It's a very big part of what we do. And then the last sector that we focus on is emerging contractor training and development. Because of our position in the market, because of the fact that we participate on some large projects, oftentimes with large prime consultants, we have developed a language and a perspective on how emerging contractors can participate in large government agency type projects. And we think we speak that language really, really well. So we're very, very excited about that. The last piece I said was community. When you think of that bridge, because if you decide to build a $100 million project, it exists only in the context of this environment. So you have to consider the people around, you have to consider the community, you have to consider the neighborhood, and all the byproducts associated with that, and we do that every day.
Steve?
Hi everyone, I'm Steve Jones. About 8 years ago I started a company called Websignia around my design and programming expertise. Today we're a full-service digital marketing agency offering very similar services, ranging from branding, website design, software development. We also help businesses get online for the first time, reach different markets that they would not normally be able to reach if they focus solely on their retail arm. Just wanted to say one point. My team is here today sort of streaming and tweeting online, so if you're on Facebook, Twitter, please join the conversation. They gave up their Saturdays to come and make sure the world outside of this room can kind of be a part of the conversation. And that's it.
Thank you. Lanier.
Great. I'm Lanier Richardson. I am CEO of Brick City Development Corporation. It was formed by Mayor Cory Booker and the Newark Municipal Council to spur minority business development, attract new businesses to the city of Newark. And this has actually been a really good year for our Economic Development Corporation and the city's business attraction efforts in particular. You'll hear a lot of talk about there being over $700 million of new projects that are under construction in the city. And we've done that really one base hit at a time. One project, 50 jobs, 100 jobs, 180 jobs. And so I'm happy to be a part of this discussion. And I look forward to the discussion today. Thanks.
Thank you. Marjorie?
Hi, my name is Marjorie Perry, MZM Construction Management and Transportation. I primarily am a specialist for Marriott hotels, stadiums around the country, including the Giant and Jet Stadium here in the New York, New Jersey area. And I am in the pig business. I also haul biosolid waste for New York City and for New Jersey. It's a very high specialized area, but garbage and sewage goes every day, and we have a part of that. And now we're working in Washington, D.C., and have launched nationally doing that same type of work.
Terrific. Dr. Crichton?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Brent Crichton. I'm the Dean of the School of Business at Montclair State University. I've been here in New Jersey at the university about a year and a half, so I lack the familiarity and some of the context that some of my colleagues might have here. However, in addition to the sort of inextricable linkage between management education institutions and economic development, we do, by the way, we build human capital, right? We create and strengthen the resources that will come to fuel public and private sector enterprises in this area, in New Jersey, and so we have an important role to play. But I would also add that the context that I bring is that I've had the opportunity over the last 20 years of my life committed to global economic development, and whether it's in the northern Johannesburg suburbs or Addis Ababa or the Central Asian Republic of Uzbekistan, I've engaged reciprocally and substantively in harnessing the power of the private sector for the creation of economic vitality, recognizing that without a strong private sector, the future of stakeholders in an economy is going to be questioned. And the extent to which we can harness the considerable intellectual, material, and experiential resources here is something that I am deeply committed to and appreciate the opportunity to contribute in some way.
Thank you all very much for your introductory comments. I'm going to ask this first question of Linnea. While the roundtable is not focused exclusively on Newark, Newark is representative of a type of community about which we tend to be concerned. So this question has to do with Newark. And Linnea, what do you believe are the key growth industries for this area going forward? And which industries are in decline?
Sure. So let me talk a little bit about what's over the last year where we've seen growth. We know that because of the infrastructure here, really the transit infrastructure, the access to all the highways, the proximity to the port, proximity to the airport, all of which we all know in this region, it's given us the ability to attract new distribution facilities. We've seen a tremendous growth in companies that really provide just food distribution. I mean, over the last year, Bartlett Dairy found a home here in Newark. It distributes to over 400 Starbucks stores in the tri-state. Wakefern has a distribution facility under construction right now. Distributes produce from Buffalo to Baltimore. Damascus Bakery, and so I can go down the list. There are Manischewitz, there are probably 10 food companies over the last 24 months that have found Newark as a central place for distribution, right? Sort of feed the region. Manufacturing, again, when you look across the state of New Jersey, we were at a meeting yesterday where the presenter really showed that manufacturing was declining in all other parts of the state except Newark. And it really is because, again, access to the port, access to all the transit, but also access to a ready, willing, and able labor force here as well. So, we all look to high tech. We certainly want to see more high tech. We know there's financial services that work in and around the gateway. But I think because of our transit infrastructure, we have a unique opportunity in the city of Newark to continue, to attract and create jobs.
Thanks. Dr. Cricht, can you add anything to that?
Well, that's one of the areas that, as I said, I would not have the sort of familiarity that others do. Let me comment on first of all, I'm in agreement. I mean, I think what I've noticed since I've been here is that transportation, logistics, obviously chemicals, pharmaceuticals, some of the higher end areas represent tremendous growth opportunities. I submit that on the manufacturing front, even though there hasn't been a visible reduction in Newark, I suggest that is not going to be the future of Newark. And unless we can find a way to migrate up the value chain with regard to manufacturing, not to mention recognize the consequences economically and politically of the increasingly tiered wage structure associated with manufacturing, that's going to be something that we struggle with. I would suggest that we begin thinking much differently about the economy for which we are educating and training students for. As a final comment on that, look, I love business schools. I've committed my life to business schools, but we have essentially, in my opinion, been educating students for an economy that simply no longer exists. And until we recognize the migration from a manufacturing and labor-based to a more knowledge-based global entrepreneurial economy and adjust the faculty ethos, if you will, which is, you know, no offense to my faculty colleagues here, I love them to death, is hard to do unless we can think differently about how we train and prepare our students for this new economy, migrating up the manufacturing chain or getting the higher value resources. We're going to struggle. So I would submit that maybe the focus isn't on how we can grow existing industry, but how we can prepare our economy and our human capital to be players in new and emergent industries.
Can I just add that in terms of new and emergent economies, so the rate of business has changed. Business has accelerated to a great extent, and the things that you were able to do in the past to stay in business, you no longer can do. Sustainability in terms of job growth is a sector that, if we're not careful, is likely to be like the digital divide that we talked about several years ago. Having access to technology, we thought there's a digital divide. There's folks who just not going to get this information. Well, there was a time when sustainability, if you were advanced in that information, you were kind of ahead of the game. You were an early adopter. It's becoming the law. As we seek to conserve natural resources, and this is not just in the construction industry, but think about any business that you're in, whether you, and I really only know 3 ways to make money, 4 ways to make money. Either you sell more stuff, you pay less for the stuff you sell, or you reduce your operating costs, or the last thing is you hire lobbyists so you can sell more stuff. It's really only 4 ways to make money. But no matter what business that you're in, if you don't look at how sustainability, having an internal sustainable strategy as well as an external sustainable strategy, it can hamper your business. So if you look at metropolitan centers around the country, and I'll take New York as an example, they're all coping with, elected officials now are trying to push and legislate sustainability, corporate responsibility, social responsibility. So there was a law that passed on May 1st in New York City. For any building owner over 50,000 square feet, they need to benchmark their energy and water usage. Now, they just created an industry that did not exist before May 1st. So there's an opportunity to train folks on benchmarking energy efficiency, sustainable water technologies, et cetera, and they can create opportunities that just did not exist in the past. And then I will say, in terms of businesses that, in terms of positions that don't seem to be as much in demand, I would look at the labor market now. You'll say the labor market, there's always a demand for labor, but on my side of the business, in terms of construction, it's the entry-level labor that seems to go down the desire for, and the highly skilled labor goes up. So even in this great recession, where there are varying numbers of folks out of business, folks that have degrees in mechanical engineering, folks who can do mechanical estimating in terms of HVAC systems and duct distribution, et cetera, and buildings and renovations are highly in demand to the extent that you have to actually compete for these folks. And I don't think you see a whole lot of those specialized categories out of work. So I would just say that the highly specialized technical positions still enjoy benefits even in this kind of economy.
Well, you raise an interesting issue, and that is the quality of the labor force needed to sustain the business ventures that we have the possibility of advancing in this area. My question for you and for Marjorie, since both of you, I gather, employ good numbers of people, what needs to be done, in your view, to better equip the urban workforce, right, Newark, if you will, in order for them to be competitive in the labor market and useful in your businesses? Marjorie, why don't we let you go first?
Well, I'm going to answer it from a twofold place. I find that the majority of the labor force in, I'll just use Newark as an example, want to stay in the labor place. It's not sustainable for them. Math and science is necessary at the next level for electricians, plumbers, HVAC. They're not skilling themselves up for those types of jobs. So what we end up doing is having to struggle with apprentices 90% of the time. And if you know anything about our industry, we need to get in and get out because the dollars are shorter, the windows are shorter, they're pushing us faster. They're saying, I want that job done now versus 80 weeks, I want it done in 60 weeks. So we're in a catch-22 of bringing in the unskilled labor who might be at apprentice level, who says, you know, I just need a job, and I'm saying, but at the end of the day, I've got to have production. So I don't know how to fix that issue. I mean, I've talked about it, I've worked with it, and it's interesting, NJIT asked me to teach a course last semester. And one of the issues that most of the young people do not have is critical thinking skills on how to even help to prepare themselves to the next level. So I'm saying until we can break that paradigm that they have to help themselves, you can no longer live off of $15 an hour to take care of yourself and a family. You have to think bigger, wider, and more holistic about where you want to go. And yesterday, we were just talking about it a minute ago, it's over. So how do we prepare today? So the labor force is weak in the urban communities. The kids are dropping out of high school in the 10th grade. I don't even know what that's about. And I'm telling you, 90% of the engineering and science students at NJIT don't look like African Americans. So that's, I just think we're in a catch-22. That's my point of view.
Bill?
I agree with Marjorie. But one of the things I would say, and it was mentioned earlier, is we have to start to focus on entrepreneurship earlier. When I was in school, I was told, do well in school so you can get a good job. It wasn't until I got to Hampton University that I learned that there was this thing called entrepreneurship where you could actually create your own industry, be your own boss, and determine your own wage and way. And so an alternative for the schools that are not performing should be more entrepreneurship and entrepreneur training, because some of the skills that those kids that may be failing in school exhibit are transferable. I work with a mentoring program, the API chapter of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. We do a Black Wealth Initiative. A Black Wealth Initiative every February, and we're piloting this program called From the Block to the Boardroom, because we see so many young males with these transferable skills. They can communicate, they have influence over others, they can lead to some extent, they know sales to some extent, and they don't realize that they're working in business systems. They do risk management to some extent. You know, so we're really trying to move. Those are all transferable skills that work in the business place. And for me, when I'm looking to hire someone, the first thing that jumps out is entrepreneurial experience. If you've been a business owner and maybe it didn't work out and you decided you wanted to go back into the market, that's attractive to me, because critical skills, you know, you're thinking on a different level. And even if you may be in a particular position, the fact that you've run a business and you have entrepreneurial skills and you can do that analytical and critical thinking is valuable to my business no matter where you show up in the chain. So I think entrepreneurial training at an earlier age is going to make a difference.
Bill, Omega is okay, but A-Phi A
A-Phi?
I had to get that for you I had to set you up for that.
A-Phi?
Okay. Here's a philosophical question that I'm going to put to Gloria and to Steve. Business is about making money, producing a profit. But in our community, we also expect business to be socially conscious. Are profit-making and community service incompatible, Gloria?
I don't think so. I think that you can certainly hone in on those community projects that you know most about, that can be most helpful in your area. For example, communication, you certainly can have workshops and all kinds of focus groups using community. Can you hear it?
No, I don't think so. Let's put it closer to me. Thank you.
You got to untape it. Take the tape off.
So you could bring it back.
Okay.
Bring it so close. Try it now.
Making a profit and working with the community certainly could be a wonderful partnership. I have volunteered, I guess, on many organizational boards and groups that are promoting small business. I'm an advocate, not necessarily making money at it or getting paid for it, but I certainly can use my skills, my experiences to pass on to other groups. Volunteering is one thing, and networking can certainly work in with your networking activities as well. I am also a chair of the Black Chamber of Commerce of Northern New Jersey, and we've been at it for now at least 12, 15 years, advocating, going to meetings, really trying to advocate to the, I guess, the business community more so than the public institutions, because public institutions, if they have it, they will share it. It is the corporate community, the larger businesses that have not been put to test or asked to go beyond their call of duty to recruit and encourage and support the businesses in Newark. I remember when I first, well, this was when I first started my business 26 years ago, I was pulled in by a gentleman who worked for public service. And he had the advantage because he would know all of the businesses that were new coming into the city and would pounce on us right away for membership. He also, I found a year later, that he was rewarded well because the chamber then had incentives. If you get a member in, whatever, how many members you get a free trip somewhere, which wasn't bad. But he had the advantage of being able to call upon those businesses that were new, but that was it.
Yeah.
I joined that chamber at that time. I mean, they had to pull that dues out of my little purse just about in order to join. But I was told the benefits were the networking possibilities, the getting to know the community, getting to help, having an opportunity to help others, all those things. Well, I went to my first meeting. I was not only the only female there, I was the only person of color. And very small business. I think I had one assistant. I sat with all of the CEOs in the city, the banks, Prudential, all of them. They talked around me, they talked above me, and if I dared put my hand up to say something, they would look at me and say, "Who's that? Hey, where'd you come from?" And keep right on talking. So I was never heard, and I thought that my presence was to be significant. Female business, African American business, a business in the city of Newark starting out, recruited to be on this chamber, and I got nothing. So one of the things that I certainly experienced was the fact that there needs to be a little, I guess, a stronger encouragement on the part of the businesses that are left here, the few banks that are here left, that are still around, and the businesses that, to call upon them not only for jobs, but to share among the qualified businesses that are in this city.
Steve, you want to try that? And then Dr. Frank, I'm going to ask you, do you guys at Montclair State University and DT at Rutgers raise this as a subject of discussion in your classroom, the relationship between profit and community service, or is that a no-no? Steve?
I definitely don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think that any business is in business for profit. I mean, you need money to stay in business, but you also need that community to expand and grow your business as a base. On a lot of levels, that's why a year ago we decided to move to Newark. We were located out in North Plainfield, and we had a similar experience where we were just, you know, we won awards for our work. We've worked with some really recognizable brands in the marketplace, and we were just out on the side of Route 22, not really feeling like we belonged to that community, and I live 2 miles away. So, you know, from coming down to Newark and meeting with folks like Lanier and GNEC and Eiffel and seeing how the community here is so interwoven, you know, we made that decision to come here to be a part of Newark's fabric. And in coming here, then we kind of gotten a real taste of how we fit into Newark and where we can kind of move forward. We do work for a lot of not-for-profit organizations and faith-based organizations as well. So we kind of try to impact the community by helping those organizations do better business. We help not-for-profits find those earned income products that they may miss out on. We help organizations like Positive Community kind of raise their digital presence, First Baptist Church, 9/11 Memorial. We work with them to kind of help develop digital properties. You know, we have a pretty vast network of folks, and we like to share it. We have some people we provide mentorship to. But just to kind of close that up, when I first was starting, we used to, you know, my partner and I used to ride down to DC with the Chamber of Commerce to try to, you know, make business contacts and things like that. And we were always the youngest guys in the room. And we felt like outsiders. And we felt like there was this group of tenured folks who have all these business contacts that we had to try to wiggle our way in so that we can kind of have them trust us to pass that information on, pass those resources on. I mean, we do that now, but I put that out there for everyone else who may be on this panel or in the audience. How do you transfer that information? How do you, we're part of the community as well. Everyone in this room is the community. So how do we transfer information to each other, share with each other so that business can be done within the community?
Thank you, Steve. Dr. Cripe, is this issue of the business role in the community a part of the curriculum at your university?
Right. So I mean, you're basically referring to what we refer to as social entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And let me, you know, I was talking to Professor Ogilvy during the break, and I was telling her how I sort of look at her work with her Center for Urban Entrepreneurship with appreciation and, you know, some envy, because frankly Montclair State doesn't have that yet. Although I aim to change that. Let me say that we have obliterated our curriculum at Montclair State for almost precisely this purpose. If you look at the sort of key sort of antecedent here is globalization, there are two important dimensions. One has been the sheer competitive nature of globalization, and you may not like it, you may not understand it, but the fact is it's here. And if you look just between India and China, I mean, there are about 2.5 billion people that frankly are looking to eat our lunch, period, right? I mean, if you're in school, if you're an educator at a university, if you're teaching middle school, if you're teaching high school, yeah, I've got kids, I tell my own kids, I tell my students, there are billions of people around the world, and let's not even talk about the diaspora, that's what folks mentioned, that are having lots of success. That's a whole different issue. But there's a global marketplace out there looking to frankly just eat our lunch, metaphorically and literally. That's one dimension. The other dimension is this issue of social entrepreneurship and this false dichotomy between doing well and doing good. And if you think about it, social entrepreneurship, or the way I look at it, and again, I've worked with some of the most opaque, distorted markets that aren't even monetized in the world. Poverty alleviation or social entrepreneurship is simply identifying another market for your good or service. And so if you find a way to meet a space in the market, and we refer to this primarily as the base of the pyramid or the bottom of the pyramid, but it's that majority of folks that don't have a lot of spending power, don't have traditional access to markets or distribution chains or whatever, but they have the same needs. They want to raise their kids, they want to be successful as you do. And for those folks that find a way to through innovation and technology to access that market, not only are there tremendous commercial opportunities, but you can impact substantively and positively community. So I don't for a minute suggest that you can't do one without the other. In fact, I think businesses have an obligation to look at them both. There are some people who feel strongly that any talk of social contribution or giving back to the community is merely a tax on the firm. There's some economic theories that might back that up. I happen to disagree, particularly in today's marketplace, and certainly as we teach our students to compete in a global marketplace, that is one of the primary areas that we're trying to emphasize.
Thanks a lot. Lanier, we're glad to hear about all the startups that have appeared in Newark. My question to you and the other panelists who may want to comment on this, what do we know about these businesses? How well are they doing? Do they pay their employees a living wage? Are they trying to stimulate new business development to accompany them in their growth and expansion? Are they reaching out to minority firms to get engaged with them in their business enterprise? Tell us a little bit about what's going on in Newark and Amazon.
Yeah, great questions, and some of this is, we're learning as we go, to be honest. Probably, the best way I can answer that question is to look at specific examples. We have about $18 million that we've lent to companies in Newark. And if I put on my Preston Pinkett hat, the first question is, are they paying? Are they paying their debt? Right? Are they, loans from $40,000 to $2 million? Are they repaying? How are they doing? So we have, what's the default rate? Minority companies, big companies, the smaller companies. So, when we look at, are people repaying their loans that we made to them? The answer is yes, right? We asked, how many of these companies that we brought to Newark are engaging Newark residents? A little further away. Yeah. How many are engaging Newark residents? I said, in the last 5 years, how many jobs have you created here? There's 16,000 jobs that are a part of this economic development initiative that we've all been a part of. Are they employing Newark residents? We are early on in our tracking, but we see about 30% of Newark resident participation in the jobs that have been created or are being created now. How do we do that? In our loan agreements and in loan covenants, and when we assist people in city land transactions, we negotiate in these first source provisions that really require them to give our residents, Newark residents, a first opportunity to interview. You can't mandate hiring, but if you're posting a position 3 or 5 days before you do a public job offering, you have an opportunity to, or a requirement to give Newark residents the first opportunity to interview for those jobs. So, this is, I always tell people, urban development, and I've been doing this across the country for almost 20 years, is evolutionary, not revolutionary. It's every day, one step, one job, one business, one loan, one success story at a time. So we're monitoring it and looking for new metrics and new ways just to understand what is success and as it relates to just business development in the city.
Thanks, Marjorie.
I just want to, I sit on the EDA board, and I got to tell you folks, sitting at the table is a good thing. You really need to be at the table, or we need to get more people prepared to be at the table. There's not enough people from our communities at the table. So to back Lanier up on that, this is a prevailing wage state. So no matter what, people are going to be paid the wages based on their industry. So that's a good pay, good day. Second, the jobs that are coming into Newark that have been signed off by the state have been really vetted out by Jones Lang LaSalle to make sure that they pass a litmus test, that they're going to hire people, that they're going to bring dollars into the table, that they're going to make sure that if they're going to get tax credit in the city of Newark, that they have absolutely gone through due diligence to be a part of that. Thirdly, at the end of the day, if they want to keep that tax credit or any of the urban tax credit issues that they're receiving or BEAT, they have to maintain a certain amount of employed people and look to grow that process over the next 5 to 10 years if they want to continue to receive that advantage. So know that anybody that's getting money or coming into the city of Newark has been really vetted out before they're signed off on any loan, any document, and they will do prevailing wage in order to stay in compliance in the state of New Jersey.
Thanks a lot.
So can I add to that?
Steve.
I think the businesses in Newark, and I'll speak for the emerging businesses, the small businesses, are doing that community service. I think an obligation exists when you're on this side of the table as an employer. You're in position to create jobs, and I think that's a great thing. So often I was in the room before I started my business working in agency programs where folks would say, we just love to hire those people, but we don't know where they are. We just love to increase participation, but we just can't seem to reach them. I'm in a network of folks, I know where they are. I know who they are, I know where they live, and I can reach them. And I think as a business owner, I have an obligation to reach those folks, and I've been able to do that. Similar to Steve, almost 3 years ago, we moved from South Orange to Newark because we wanted to make a commitment in the community. And I think that's an important piece, that if you're going to suggest that your business is an extension of the community, you should be in and of the community. I can't tell a story like a lot of folks that say, you know, I grew up in Newark, I was born here, et cetera, but I can tell the story that I committed to Newark. I pay taxes in Newark. I made a huge investment in Newark, and I think that continues with the business and the people that we employ. I also had an opportunity to, Marjorie mentioned being at the table, sit on the Newark Workforce Investment Board with Marjorie and with Lanier, and being able to take advantage of the opportunities and the resources that exist in a city like Newark is immeasurable. For one, Newark Works, if you're looking to hire folks, there is an on-the-job training program that will pay 90% of your wages for 6 months. In a recession, how can you get services like that? It seems that that just doesn't exist. But if you're looking for a way to staff up your firm and you have, and you need resources, you know, a city like Newark offers these type of resources that will help you be competitive and give you the resources you need to run your business and operate. So I think that obligation exists and it's out of the community.
All right, thanks a lot. I want to return to an issue that Gloria raised. I think is a very important one in a community like Newark, and that is the extent to which the major corporations in the Newark environs, not just Newark, but the Newark environs, are attempting to reach out to minority and small businesses to either mentor or engage them such that they might grow and prosper and employ. What's your sense of how that's unfolding? I mean, we're in 2011, we've been talking about major corporations mentoring small firms for at least 15 or 20 years. Has anything happened? Gloria?
I'm not quite sure what's happening. Even being on the board of the Regional Business Partnership for 23 years, I have not heard of any programs that the corporations have submitted through that chamber to the community that would benefit minority businesses or even jobs. Years ago, when it was the buzzword to do the right thing, there was a little activity. But I think since the, I guess the leadership of the state, of the country, did not find it necessary to have any type of mechanism for corporations to share the wealth. The state has done that through its RFPs. You have to have a certain percent of women, minority, small businesses in order to win a contract. The oversight there, I would say, is a little on the weak side because, again, a large corporation that comes into and gets a state contract can hire someone, one of his friends, his cousin, his uncle, as long as they are certified in a certain category. No longer do we have the minority and so forth set aside. 25%, I think, for small business is the only one. But the corporation that gets that government contract does have to designate in that RFP what their efforts are going to be. And like someone here said, that the claim is that the best effort put forward, they say, do not come up with the quality or the company or the business that they're looking for, so they go elsewhere, or they claim they cannot find anyone in that
What's been your
category.
experience, Marjorie?
Well, you know, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to come from a solution place here.
Please.
We've been talking about the issues. I think everyone here is aware of the issues. What I think has to happen, there's a few programs that are out there, and Bill may know about it. There's a new program in New York, which I think is going to be very, very powerful. It's Goldman Sachs and 10,000 businesses, small businesses, to grow over the next 5 to 10 years. We have to get with the colleges and the businesses to take people and put them in comprehensive programs and start to scale them. They're not scaling. We're staying right here. So if you have a flat economy and you have a lot of mentorship, we can't mentor one person at a time. We have to do it as Preston talked about earlier. We need clusters. We don't have clusters.
Yeah.
So if you took 90% of the people in this room and we became a cluster so that it's not so draining on one person or one business, then we can mentor better. You know, Bill might take on cost estimating through engineering concepts. You know, that might be his teaching model. My teaching model might be business strategy and how to read financial statements. You know, get them away from doing compilations and get them up to reviews, because the banks really want to review now and close to darn near an audit. You know, so until we can get to new solutions in this paradigm, we're going to have the circular discussion going on and on and on. But I would love to see how we can grow with Montclair State. DT is already taking names and no addresses in terms of her commitment, and how the senior businesses or businesses that have been around a long time and come together and build this cluster in this community, and maybe it could be a model for whoever else in the rest of the country to see how we did it. But New York has this tremendous thing going with, I think it's LaGuardia, Bill?
LaGuardia Community College.
LaGuardia Community College, and Goldman Sachs is backing it financially. That's what has to happen.
Okay, thanks. Let's get Gus Kingsbury involved in panel number 2. He was a very effective contributor to panel number 1. You want to add anything to what has just been said about the role that major corporations in Newark have played or are playing in mentoring small minority firms?
It's a very limited role.
Yes.
Where it has occurred, it was from external pressure, not internal. When the external pressure stopped, it stopped.
That's right.
Because nobody was checking.
No.
Nobody was monitoring to see what they're doing. I must say, when the pressure was on, there was a lot of cooperation. When the pressure went off,
It went away.
the cooperation stopped.
I would just like to add to that,
Great,
because, you know, the way we started our business 5 or 6 years ago on a large scale was by that cooperation and pressure. We had a chance to, we actually won a $30 million contract at the New York City School Construction Authority with a larger firm and mentor arrangement, a large global corporation with 55,000 employees. But the environment and the culture was at the agency that suggested if you did not have a strong minority partner, a true partner, then you're going to be passed over for this opportunity. And I believe that's the only reason we got it. I don't think the global corporation decided, you know, it's time to do a better job in this mentoring. I think they recognize that we want that contract and we need to be competitive. So if this is what we have to do, we'll do it. And it actually allowed us to grow our business to the point where we are now. And it was extremely, extremely valuable because of the culture that was created based on that pressure.
Okay. All right. 1 or 2 more questions from me, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. The Black church has played a major role in successfully advancing the civil rights movement. Can this great institution, which embodies so much tradition, culture, and spiritual guidance, also inspire, encourage, and support a vision of economic advancement grounded in community cooperation that can foster what we might call a community ideal? Who wants to try that?
I'll start.
Good.
I think the Black church has always been there in the community. I don't think they've never not been there. I think the paradigm is shift for the Black church and how they're going to get programs and training done. So at the end of the day, they will always be impactful. I think they always will make a contribution, and I think they will always serve the community and their constituents as best they can. Now, how do we kick that up a notch? That's the issue. You know, how do we support the churches? It was mentioned earlier before. How do we embrace all the clusters, the base faith, the education, and the businesses to come together for a new conversation so that the churches have an opportunity to even be more forthright going forward on economic development? Thanks,
Marjorie. Who wants to be second? Yeah.
I'll just comment briefly. I'm a Detroiter. Detroit is home. I was educated there, went to public schools throughout my life there. Some of the most vital and entrepreneurial and dynamic institutions from a business standpoint. I mean, they own businesses, they own property, they ran private schools before private schools were cachet. You know, they were doing this decades ago. I think that this is precisely something that is scalable, that's transferable. I do believe, to your point, that the paradigmatic shift does require a more active reciprocal partnership with educational institutions, again, to make sure that the sort of skills align with what's needed, and preferably with private sector partners. But I think that, I don't think there's much low-hanging fruit here. I think that represents some pretty low-hanging fruit for a city like Newark.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to jump in?
I just want to add really quickly.
Yeah.
You know, part of my job is to make the phone ring, so I'll say something a little provocative. Expecting that my phone will ring this week. What's been interesting to me, I'm from Chicago, I've been here 2 years. And when I relocated to Newark, I went to many of the churches, 3 or 4 of the churches here in the city, the big ones. What's interesting is I've not had the church community provide opportunities or call us and say, you know, we have a business that we really support. We'd like to see the city get behind them. We have a business that's really interesting here. We'd like to provide, we'd like you to consider providing them some capital. That call just has not been made in 2 years. Now, that's not critical, and again, I'm saying that in an open arm type of way of, I'm surprised by that, actually. I'd love to have 3 or 4 or 5 opportunities that were initiated by the faith-based community that we, obviously we won't be able to finance all 5 of them. Obviously we may not be able to assist all 5 of them. But I'm sure that there's some entrepreneur who goes to one of the churches in Newark that we should be supporting. We just haven't gotten that call.
Okay, you may not have gotten the call, but you're fixing to get some questions.
And some calls.
Right. No, I know it.
We had a comment from Jerome China, who said that he noticed that a number of the leaders of the Black churches, the communities in which they have the church is not in the communities in which they live. Could this be something that affects Linger's point? Could that be a part of it?
Well, again, I don't know. I am opening the door to the faith-based community to, if you have business initiatives that are part of your church, if you have entrepreneurs that are part of your church, that have viable ideas, that have some capital. We provide gap financing, not gorge financing. We can't fill the whole gap. But if you have people that you believe in, we welcome the opportunity to try to finance them. That's all. I mean, I don't want to overpromise, but I really am shocked that we haven't had that telephone call.
All right, Kay Payne wants to raise an issue.
How old are you?
I'm 45.
All right. My son is 50.
All right.
All right. We had one of the early businesses, the Thompson Dance Studio.
All right.
We established the Thompson Dance Studio in the South Ward right shortly before the riots. Right. We were in business for 20 years. Gus was doing things with Urban Coalition for maybe almost that time. But we were in business for a long time. I go back to when you've heard of Alvin Ailey's dance company, you know, and that fact that Revelations, faith-based choreography. All right, I remember when Alvin choreographed that 50 years ago. All right, when I was watching it on the 92nd Street Y in New York. Faith-based, when Gus was doing, and this is to punch him up, my name is Kay Thompson Payne / Henningberg, if he acts right. Maybe. But anyway, he did something called the Love Festival in the park, in Weequahic Park. It got 60,000 people. And guess where he got the people from? The faith-based churches in Newark, years ago. What happens, I think what annoys me, and really not to you specifically, is the fact that there are so many people who are seniors who remember Newark and remember how it was a long, long time ago when the Black and Puerto Rican Congress was in effect, when, what is his name, Joe Kenyatta was wielding machete in the streets of Newark. Some people may remember that. So there were a lot of things going on. There was a business initiative that happened right after the riots in Newark. I know, we opened the Thompson Dance Studio. I was teaching school at that time. So there's a lot going on, and there's so many things. For instance, I used to work for WLIB Radio, and we did a lot with giving out information and conversations and everything. And from police brutality, you name it, WLIB, BLS, Adrienne and Jean know this. We go back many, 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 many years. We've been doing things with businesses. Gus and I, now we're senior citizens. We're going back to what we've been best at doing. Our passion is broadcasting. We now have a blog talk radio. And we're going to be talking about the positive community, you know, advantages and things that they've been doing. It's wonderful. But that has been based before. So if you use some of the people who have been there, done that, dealt with the banks, helps establish some of the banks, we've done it. We just got finished interviewing Marsha Coleman Adebayo. She is, you know the name. All right. A whistleblower under the Obama administration, and she was talking about mining adenium, mining something or other, where they're using it in, using miners to mine this thing that's poisoning African people. We had her on the air Wednesday night. We're live every Wednesday, 8 p.m. until 9, and sometimes we do 2 hours, and we bring up all kinds of subjects. So we're back doing what we're doing. So if you need to know about politics in Newark, business in Newark, education in Newark, education on the higher education level, I know you must know that Newark is now known as a higher education city in the entire state of New Jersey, okay, with a financial situation here in Newark that is really, you know, out of this world. So there's a lot to be learned. No, you know, so what we've been doing as senior citizens is going back, doing what we do best, letting you know information. We'll be giving you all kinds of information about interviews that we've done over a period of over 30 years, and 50 years combined. You're welcome.
Thank you, Gus.
I don't know where she gets this volunteer. A quick observation about that Love Festival in Weequahic Park. Some of you were there. Mm-hmm. You were younger then.
Not born.
Some of you were not born. We were fought against putting on that Love Festival. It was a party. By everybody from the then mayor to community organizations, and the whole purpose was to go out in the park and have an afternoon of music and dancing and picnicking. That did not appear to me to be politically threatening to anybody. Now, I didn't have any expectation that 64,000 people were going to show up. The mayor apparently did, which is what was the basis for his opposition. The point I'm making is, and I'll share this with some of you older people in this room, Bernice Bass kept encouraging the ministers, the black ministers, every week on her show, get your people out to the park. It's free, it's going to be fun, etc. They were resisting every step of the way. And I was so curious, I went to try to figure out why are they resisting. The mayor was behind the resistance of the black preachers. The reason was the money coming from the federal government, much of which ended up in black church programs, was funneled through the mayor. And when the mayor said, don't go to the park, he doesn't work for the city. He's going to run for politics. Well, you know, it was one of those things. We went to PSNG. They ran the buses. I guess they still do run the buses. And we had buses picking people up at every church. We emptied every black church in the South. Now that was deliberate. That was retaliatory, Richard. That's one of your words. And when public service said, Gus, we'll provide you with the buses, but what time shall we start the pickup? I said 11 o'clock, Sunday morning. And they wrote it down. And then somebody at the PS called me back and said, well, that's when church starts. And I said, that's where the people are. And you can make it up to 11 o'clock if you want, because that's when they pass the plate. Now, if our free bus shows up when the plate is being passed, they're going to pay attention to me from now on. And they did. Now, the point of all that is, that's where the City of Newark Department of Recreation came from. The city had no Department of Recreation. But when 64,000 people showed up in that park, the police department would provide no security. I had to go to some black cops in New York City. They had an organization over there. They still have it. And said, I need about 50 uniformed policemen in the park. They're not going to have anything to do. There's nothing going to happen out there but a good time. And they came. Now I'm sharing that simply to suggest levels of opposition to things that logically would appear to every one of us to have been positive, useful, good, and all that good stuff. The resistance was unbelievable to putting it on. And the person, this is a name they'll all recognize, Richard, the person who enjoyed it the most was Bernie Spass.
Not bad.
Bernie was on radio after and said, I've been telling you Negroes for weeks, you need to get out of your church on Sunday and go to the park. It'll send the signal.
And when Bernie said go, they went.
They went. And the first thing that happened was the city then created this Department of Recreation, which never had before.
Thank you, Gus. All right, there's a gentleman in the back who wants to raise a question, and then we're going to come to the bishop. Yes, sir. The architect.
I was looking for an opportunity to say something without trying to basically advertise my firm, but just the 1 second spiel is I'm an architect, Woodridge Chin Architects in Newark, New Jersey. Everybody in this room has been in something that one of the principals from our firm has designed. Just to go back to the black church at one particular time saved our office's life. Because when the market got low, it was the black churches that rallied around and started giving our office work. But one of the things I'd like everybody to think about, I look at the title here, and we talk about New York and we talk about New Jersey. Right now in a very depressed market, what I fight against is our partners across the river in New York. And I'm constantly finding New York firms basically that are lowballing or succumbing in and marketing and taking away, eroding our base. But now I have students coming from NJIT, Essex County College, Stevens, always looking for jobs. And I was one of the largest employers for a number of years. And now I have to turn everybody away because I have to say, go to that firm in New York City that they just gave the $50 million contract to. Or go to that firm down south that they just gave that $45 million contract to. The ones that I used to get, I designed all of the train stations connecting Camden and Trenton, New Jersey. That was over $500 million. Those projects are all done now. So our base, our financial base has been weakened. And we're going down simply because now we have firms that basically are quote unquote New Jersey based, going to Connecticut, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Illinois, giving away the work. And we basically need work. So that was just one point I'd like to just mention to everybody. When you think about Newark, think about what we're doing over here, that we're basically the people that are hiring the young folks that are trying to get at least 3 years when they graduate from college. 3 years years, they must find a job in architecture. And just as a side note, from John Chase in Houston, Texas, used to tell me, before 1950, nobody would hire a black young person in architecture. Nobody would. So those guys struggled trying to even get be qualified to take the test. Just wanted to get that in.
Thank you a lot, brother. I think the issue you raised doesn't just apply to the black business or the architecture business. It is a problem for businesses in New Jersey generally. If they're not lowballed by New York, they're lowballed by Pennsylvania or Connecticut. So I don't know what the answer to that is, but it is a real problem, and it's especially a serious problem for minority firms. Is that not right,
That's true.
Doctor?
He says it is.
All right.
38 years at PSE&G, retired urban development. 25 years preaching the gospel, weird animal, corporate preacher, president, North Jersey, weird animal, worked with Gus and others, long time. One of the things, and was always on those train rides, one of the things that I find interesting, and please don't be offended by this, you've been here 2 years. You made a statement, you went to the 4 largest churches, large by whose definition? Because they become large by their political, who they're willing to support. They become large because you've been told by a political boss to go someplace. Let's lay the cards on the table. If we're gonna tell the truth, I ain't never seen you. I ain't trying to be. I ain't never seen you. I pastor. Not only that, I'm the president of North Jersey Committee of Black Churchmen. We've been around since the riots. I'm the only second president they've ever had. We have capacity to do things that has not been done. We're going to be talking about what's going on for this crime piece. The program, and just to give you a little history, the program that they call the curfew program, the most successful curfew program that was ever run in this nation was under North Jersey Committee of Black Churchmen in a partnership with the United States government and the Newark School Board. But somehow when it came time to renew the contract, somehow our stuff got stuck in the political quagmire of the legal department, and so we missed the deadline. So it's political, and there's no secret. Corey and I both will be on Nightline next week, so it should be interesting. So we ain't seen ya. You know, let me put it with a link. We have not seen.
And sir, I humbly offer myself.
Right, let me go.
I humbly offer myself to me.
Let me go to the question that I really have. Statements were made about Newark residents. I also chair the HSAC, the Human Service Advisory Council. So I'm I was there when we had JEPTA. The one-stop work, all of that falls under my BizWac. And the reality is that the question is, who did you talk to get Newark residents ready for realistic training for the jobs that you offered? Who did you talk to? And where are you getting these residents from? Because those of us that deal with them on a day-to-day basis, those of us that were walking up and down the halls of special schools, those of us that came out of corporate America and the PSE&Gs of the world when Al was there was all right, but we put special training programs in. I did the business case for the worry-free, the urban business case for these brothers. Newark Technical High School had a program, read the 2000 annual report of PSE&G. These black and Hispanic kids were in there. 50% of them passed every program. Ralph Izzo, and I'm not backing it, Ralph Izzo didn't hire any one of those kids. He's the CEO of PSE&G now. And so the reality is there's no corporate will to hire our kids even when they're ready. And there's no corporate will to do business even with many of you, because the reality is, and Gus will tell you this, I was one of the people under the former president, and this was before Al, when Cody was president, that put together the diversity program. So some of us preachers that have been around for a long time weren't just preaching and taking the stereotype of taking money. Many of us have separate careers and have done a whole lot, but nobody comes talk to us unless it's about voting time and where you stand on the political field. And so I have a real problem with some of the things that were said here. And I'm available. You can call me. This is not about me. This is about the people of Newark. Because the reality is that in the black community up by my church, that 50% of the folks that look like me are unemployed in Newark.
That's right. All right, thank you very much. I think we have had an excellent second panel. Please join me in thanking Gloria Bryant, Bill Parrish, Steve Jones, Lanier Richardson, got beat up a little bit, Marjorie Perry, and Dean Crichton, and Gus Hindenburg. Thank you all for coming. Now, where is our leader here? Come on, Adrian. Say good night. Good night, everybody.
Just wanted to talk about the reverse. Being in communications, I know that it is so important, and Kay and Gus certainly hit that, to be able to communicate to our communities, let them know what things really are, support them. And Adrian has been at this for a while. He has promoted, he's promoted many of you here, and I think that it's time to pay back. Talk about community. Make sure that before you put ads in the Star Ledger and other magazines, that
My leader, Adrian County.
My leader, Gene Wells, my partner. I just want to thank everybody for being here. The most important thing is that we have to have dialogue. This is the way that we grow. We want to see a glass that's half filled, not half empty. There's a portion of hope and opportunity that we need to drink deep from. And so this leadership roundtable series is an opportunity for us to bring up issues, but not only bring up the issues, but bring solutions. We're happy, first of all, just to, for our moderator, the chair of the Deputy Baptist Richard Roper, to be here with us, and certainly we do look forward to our next roundtable series. Will be on health and safety. That will be in November. We want to thank all of our sponsors, the General Baptist Convention of New Jersey, the Black Ministers Council of New Jersey, Golden Cross Caribbean Bakeries, Websignia, Steve Jones over Websignia. Did I leave anybody out? Noble Strategies. I don't have the list right now in front of me, but I want to raise that, the American Heart Association. All of you who came out here today are our sponsors. All of the churches that have committed to our roll call to progress and have paid $1 a copy for bulk delivery. The only thing that I do want to say is that there was someone who said about selling and about the lemonade stand. You know, in the last year, we asked churches, because of the economy and because it's so expensive to put this magazine out, we asked churches to contribute $1 a copy to our magazine to help us offset the cost. Now we have churches from Queens through Westchester all the way down to South Jersey. Now we're outside of the suburbs of Philadelphia that are paying for these bulk deliveries. One of the biggest problems that I've had is that I've asked churches, I said, why don't you give the magazines to the youth ministry? It's only $1 a copy. Some churches are paying $600 every month for the magazines. It's only $1 a copy. Give it to the youth ministry. Let them sell it for $2, $3. Let them tithe 10%. Let them save 10%. Let them take a bus trip or go bowling or something like that. But let us begin to teach our children about business when they're young. When I got into business as in sales because of my father. He owned a store. He built the shoe shine stand for me. I was 9 years old. I had to service my customers, had to pay my rent on my shoe shine stand, and that's how you learn business. As has been said earlier, it starts from a very, very young age. And we have to begin to look for ways that we're going to grow our community, grow our economy, and create industry. So on behalf of all of us at the Positive Community Magazine, we want to say thank you. Bishop James, why don't you come and give us the benediction, and we'll be done for the day.
Before I retired from PSC&G, as an urban development executive, I realized that we didn't have, and we weren't advertising in any African American magazine. And I am proud to say, and I believe that you still have the relationship, that I was the person that brought Adrian Council in, because I said if he has as product at least as good as the other products, then we're going to give him a shot. Adrian, I believe you're still there at PSC&G today?
Not as much as we should.
Well, I'm retired now, but I will speak to some folks that I still know there. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for friendship, fellowship, and relationship. God, we thank you that we can sit down and break bread and discuss what's going on for our people. And Lord, we may see it through different eyes and have different ideas, but if you bring us together as a cluster, if you bring us together as one people, if you bring us together as one hand with many fingers, that we can hold on to what we have and reach for even higher heights. So even now, as we go down from this place, be the fence, be the hedge all around us. Bless us, bless our homes, bless our family. Lord, remember those that you've put in leadership. God, that they may lead us to greater heights in you. And then, God, give us moral victories to go along with the money that you're going to bless us with to make because of this conference. Continue to bless Adrian for his insight, his vision. Give him what he stands in need of. God, remember those that are over our financial institutions, that somehow that we can live, if we can't get a bucket, we can live with just a cup of water. God, that make the way that it can be released to us, and that we will be a people that will stand in the end. Dismiss us from this place, but not from your presence. In the name of our God we pray. Amen. Amen.